Welcome to the Meet Your Professor webinar for those of you who are not yet in the program, and for the current students. Hello. So I will hand off this presentation to Christiane. So please take the stage, Christiane, and thank everyone for joining.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sarah and team, for putting this together for us. We really appreciate the opportunity to be together and to have some of these really important questions answered in a format that I think then we can also go back and reflect on, look at, and share with some of our colleagues to make sure everyone has the same information. So, for those of you that don't know me, and there's only a few, I think, of our new students, I will be throwing a lot of information at you today, and I do talk quickly. So I don't want the opportunity to go by if I've been unclear or if I've said something too quickly. Let's not waste the opportunity by not asking the questions, right? Let's get it right up front, right here. So please don't let me be confusing or don't let me talk too fast. But I do have a lot to get through, so I am going to try and be as speedy as possible. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is a program overview. And for those of you that are new to the program, this is especially specifically for you. The School of Music has a number of different programs that we offer. The first program, and the program that most students start in, is the Bachelor of Music program. And all students begin here, and plenty of students finish with a Bachelor of Music program. But after the second year, there is an opportunity to redefine what you want to do with your music degree. And so at the end of second year, there's an opportunity to define a major in composition, to define a major in recital work. So more of a performance aspect of Bachelor of Music. There's also an opportunity at the end of second year to apply to both the music education program and the music therapy program. And both of those applications are in-house, they're done in-house, so that the professors within those programs look at your application and your GPA, and we reflect with each other, with your applied professors, on sort of your aptitude and your whether you're well suited to those programs or not. A program that not a lot of students take part in, but it's a pretty exciting program, is the Bachelor of Arts in Music, which also has an honors feature to that program, so that can become a BAM-H, so to speak. We don't have a lot of students take that program, but every year we probably have one or two. So if that's something that interests you, don't hesitate to ask those questions about that program. You won't hear me spend a lot of time on it simply because we don't have a large portion of our student body engaged in it, but it is a program that we offer, and I didn't want to forget about it. And finally, the Certificate in Music Therapy is a degree program, is a diploma program for those students that have already completed a music degree. So that's those students that have perhaps done a music degree a long time ago and decide they want to switch gears and enter the field of music therapy. That's an option for them. It's also an option for students who did a music degree more recently and have just now decided to move on and continue in music therapy. So it's a diploma or certificate program rather than a degree program. And I think we'll move on to the next slide, please. Excellent, thank you. The first year overview, and this is particularly interesting in the age of COVID. So if you're an entering student, a student coming to us in first year, your first year usually looks like the suite of courses that's in front of you. I'll go through them really quickly, but this is a normal first year music experience. You will take Music Through the Ages, which is a music history course, a course about the history of Western art music and how we got to where we are today with classical composers and how they relate to composers of today, giving you a sense of the history of music. Keyboard and Lab is a comprehensive course on learning what the keyboard can do for you as a musician. So whether you're a flautist or a singer or a pianist, this course is a required course to help you with your keyboard skills. The lab component is sort of an offshoot of that course to help your musicianship skills. So those things like solfege and sight reading, taking chord progressions from the keyboard and doing more with them in a musicianship format. 1563 is basically the introductory course into what music therapy is. It's a broader course than that, but it's taught by our music therapy expert, and he has designed the course to be called Music, Body, Mind, and Spirit. And so it delves into the different ways in which music therapy can be found and how our body, mind, and spirit can engage in the field of music therapy. 1693 is playing and hearing music. So that happens in the second term of your first year. And that again is a more in-depth course in understanding dictation, rhythm, sight reading, listening, playing collaboratively, making music in a different way. Your principal applied, Music 1666, is the course that you really all choose to come to university for. It's the reason you probably got invested in music in the first place. It's your really important instrument work. So whether that instrument be violin or voice, that's your one-on-one lessons with an expert on your instrument every week for the whole year. And so there's more to come on that, and I can speak more about what your applied lessons will look like in a later slide, but just know that that course is part of your first year curriculum. Music 1600 first year chorus, that will definitely look different this year with COVID being what it is, but it's still a requirement for all students to understand, again, learning to hear, listen, see, and breathe music. It's part of the ear training component to our curriculum. It's also part of understanding that all musicians should be singers, that all musicians should understand how to sing, whether they're educators or therapists, musicologists, composition majors, etc. English 1406, or 6 hours of any English or 6 hours of any history. That's a major requirement for all first year students. So you do have a great deal of choice in those courses. It can be any number of the things I've just listed. However, it is tricky to find a course that fits within the really quite strict music schedule. And so if there's an English course you want to take, don't hesitate to reach out and find out whether we can help you fit it in your schedule or not. It does not have to be 1406, but it does have to be 6 hours of either English or history or a combination of the two. And finally, 2713, which is Chamber Music Workshop, is going to be replaced for the first year cohort this year. In fact, it's replaced for all music students, but because it's a first year requirement, I'm speaking about it here. Chamber Music Workshop will be replaced for the first year cohort with a special topics course in the history and methodology of practicing. So really starting off strong in first year with understanding how we go about practicing, what are some really good tips and tricks, what the best methodology is, and that course is the substitution for 2713. So when you see, first year students, when you see Music 2903 practicing on your transcript, it is not a mistake. That is the substitution, the course code substitution for Music 2713. Because of COVID, 2713 just simply became very obvious that it wasn't going to be able to do what we wanted it to do for this year. And so we've made substitutions for that course for everyone in music. Next slide, please. Super. So these are some really exciting parts about being a School of Music student. These are the things you get to be involved in. These are the ways in which we build community within the School of Music. So the Society of Acadia Music Students is a really important place to get involved. It's important that you get to know your leadership in SAMS. Excuse me, they are responsible for organizing social events, for gatherings, for building community, building links between students and faculty, but also between students and students. And so we are really going to work hard to establish a buddy system again within SAMS. So we really hope that that would be an upper year student being involved in mentoring and guiding a newer student, a first or second year student. The SAMS crew assists in all auditions. So if you are a first year student, an entering student, you will have already met that SAMS crew. They were there for all the audition days. Concert Credit is our 2870 weekly get together as a community of School of Music. Now that's also been changed for COVID, but we wanted to talk about it here so that you knew what was normal within the School of Music experience, and then how we're going to change it for this year due to COVID. So it is a weekly performance/lecture experience, and we all come together to learn something new every single Thursday. It features guest artists, it features faculty, it features students, and every week is a different topic. For this year, because of COVID and the regulations about large numbers of students being together, we are going to eliminate concert credit for the first term only. Okay, so there'll be no, for those of you graduating and instantly you're thinking, I need 4 years of concert credit, you're going to be fine. This is our decision. It's not a negative reflection on you. This will not have any bearing on your ability to graduate. But we did feel it was the safest decision to make. So you will notice that 2870 concert credit doesn't begin until January. You'll see a little X2 next to it on your transcript now. And so hopefully we will be able to resume concert credit in January, probably still with some very strict guidelines in place, but I didn't want you to expect that for the fall. And then again, as I spoke about briefly, the honors component is within the Bachelor of Arts in Music with honors degree program, but then there also is an opportunity to audition to be allowed to do both a third-year recital and a fourth-year recital for credit if there's room in your degree after some advising and some auditioning process. So there's lots of ways to be involved and lots of opportunities to find your own unique path through these degrees. Let's do the next slide while I grab a sip of water. Okay, so here comes the down and dirty facts. I've been getting a lot of these questions already. So what I thought I would do before we even open it to your questions today is my hope is I will go through enough of these things that you'll have those questions that they're burning in your brain, that you'll have them answered, okay? So these have been compiled from other webinars that I've done, from emails from all of you, and from ongoing work with your faculty council. So hopefully there'll be a lot of good information here that will help you understand what we're doing for you. I should say, before we start, two things that I really want to stress and that I really, really think are important for you as students to understand is that your faculty council has been meeting on a weekly basis since April. They've been talking about every single thing you can imagine and more, I'm sure, to try and help make your experience and your degree in the School of Music as positive and as powerful and as an important experience as it can be. And so one of the things you'll be hearing from your applied faculty, those teachers that teach you the one-on-one lessons. So again, applied, if it's a new word for you, that's our fancy word for your one-on-one lessons. In the coming weeks, I really want you to watch in your Acadia email for emails from your applied professors, from those professors that teach you bassoon one-on-one or voice one-on-one, and they will be reaching out to you to gather a whole bunch of information from you, right? We want to know well before September what you are going to be able to do with your instrument, what kind of technology you have, what kind of practice space you have, and if any of those things are concerns, you're going to let them know and they're going to let me know, because there are many, many things that we can do to help you. So if you're already worried about practicing your tuba at home at grandma's house, let us know those things, because we really want to make sure that we can help you problem solve those things so that they aren't a surprise come September. So watch for that email from your applied professors, okay? But the first thing I will tell you is that for the fall, all applied lessons, that's all your one-on-one work, for the fall, they will all be done online. They will all be done in some sort of computer phone related experience. So that could be live like we're doing now. Synchronous is the word. You play, I listen, I tell you what I think, and we go from there. But it also can be very powerfully done with uploading of videos. And so there will be a recorded element to much of your work with your applied teachers for the fall. And so that's the decision that we had to have approved by the university and by the Nova Scotia government. And so for the fall, all your applied work, all your applied one-on-one lessons will be done online. And again, as I've suggested, there's many ways to do online teaching and online work, and you and your teacher will work that out together, okay? So that's the first thing on our bullet point here, is that lessons are online. Ensembles for the fall will also be online. Okay, and so what that means is that each ensemble director is already, and I can tell you because I've spoken with all of them, all your ensemble directors are already planning some really interesting curriculum for the fall, an experience that is different than being together. Okay, collaborative music will have to take a back seat to other things for this fall. Making music in a collaborative way is a little more difficult during COVID, but I can tell you all of the ensemble directors have really well thought out plans for you and for your ensembles for the fall. So we have a really exciting plan for chorus. I know that Nick has some really interesting things he's doing with jazz band. I know that Mark Hopkins and Tristan and Ardith are all working towards really exciting initiatives and very, very clever initiatives for symphonic band and wind ensemble. And Tristan as well is creating some very interesting things for the string ensemble, for the orchestra. So I wanted to waylay any fears about an ensemble experience being less than for this fall. And in fact, some of the things that they've chosen to do, I really feel we would never have been able to do if we hadn't been sort of forced into this new reality because of COVID. So I want you to know what you're going to receive from your ensemble directors is going to be a really fulsome experience. But for the fall, it will be all online. That doesn't mean you can't practice in safe ways, and we will get to some of those protocols. It doesn't mean that you can't make music 12 to 15 feet apart with a friend in the foyer. It doesn't mean there won't be opportunities to be together safely, but it does mean the large groups won't be together at all in the fall. Again, our hope is that come January, we will know a lot more. We'll know historically how the province has done. We'll know how our university has done from a numbers perspective of COVID. And by January, we'll be able to make, well, it'll be well before January that we make that decision. But our hope for second term is that we will have a different experience starting in second term. These decisions that I've just spoken about are only for first term. Coursework and classes. So you will now have at your disposal the new timetable and the new timetable with the modalities next to it. So if you haven't checked that out, please do so, because the modalities are pretty clearly listed there. There's a face-to-face option, there's a hybrid option, and there's a virtual or online option. With that being said, for every single one of those options, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only way you can access that course. So for example, if a course is listed as face-to-face, which I know for a few music courses, those are listed that way. They are listed as face-to-face, F2F. You're going to see that modality. If you aren't able to be there, okay, you have vulnerable populations in your home, you yourself are worried about your health, you live in Australia and you just can't get back, there will be ways for all of those courses to be able to be sent to you, streamed to you, recorded, uploaded. So the idea that you have to be back just because you see the words face-to-face is absolutely something that you know is negotiable, and it should be something that you reach out to me and the professor about as soon as you can, so that we know who those students are. And we've identified those students that still want to be able to participate in their degree fully, but for whatever reason, can't be face-to-face, can't be back on campus. It's our job as your professor to make the accommodations and to make it completely accessible for you to be able to get the content you need for your degree. Okay, I hope that's clear. Practice rooms. This is going to be a big one, and it's going to be so much fun for Sams and I to work this out together. But we will have a list of practice rooms by schedule, by people. So think about it like a practice room bubble. Okay, so we'll have a group of students assigned to one practice room. There will be practice rooms now in festival theater in places you didn't know existed. We are aiming and hoping to work with student services to have practice rooms in residences, defined practice spaces. You will need more of them. We recognize that, especially if we're limiting the number of students per practice room. But we also want to encourage you to really investigate your home situation, whether or not there could be practice hours that everyone agrees to within your apartment, whether or not at home there could be practice schedules with your family. So those are the kinds of questions you're going to want to think about as well. But I can promise you, the way the practice rooms are scheduled and the way they are kept clean and the university mandate to do so is something that we're taking very seriously. And we want you to know that if you need a practice room, we will find you one, okay? But it might look very different than the schedule you've been used to doing, which is signing up on Monday or even just walking down the hall and finding something that was open. That world of freedom within COVID is no longer. You can really assume that that will be the case, that things will be much more scheduled and things will be much more conscious within decision making because we have to keep you safe. Okay, and so if it feels rigid and if it feels difficult, I understand, and quite frankly, we all understand, but our first priority is to make sure we're following the safety guidelines. And I hope that you understand that that just might mean practicing has to be a little more thoughtful when you do it so that you can schedule your time and have time to clean and then the next person has time to come in as well. So I'm equating it to when you go to the gym and you wipe down your treadmill, right? So a good citizen, a good member of society will finish the treadmill work and wipe down because the chemicals are there and the wipes are there. They'll wipe down that treadmill and it'll be nice and clean for the next person that comes. There will be a lot of that that's asked of you, okay? From music stands to practice rooms to doorknobs to things when you leave a space, not classrooms. Classrooms are not your job, but a space like a practice room where you've touched an instrument, a music stand, and a doorknob, that when you leave, we will have things there and you just wipe it down and head on out. So we hope that those sorts of new policies and scheduling things will become second nature to us, but they will be different, okay? Concert credit I've spoken about a bit. I don't think I'm going to revisit that one much, except to say, don't be surprised when you don't see it in first term. It is only currently right now an X2, which means second term. Music therapy practicums, that's a huge question right now and a really, really important topic. So I'm going to spend a few minutes on this one. Excuse me. Music therapy practicums absolutely will be done and there won't be any issues with having them. I say that, but you should know they won't necessarily look like what they've looked like in the past. So much like a number of the other discussions we've already had today, yes, we're going to be able to get you through your degree. Yes, we're going to be able to provide the things you need to do so, but it may look different than what you've come to expect. So we're working really hard with the CAMT. They've established a number of guidelines, guiding features for those of us in education holding practicum placements. We're working with the 2 music therapy experts who are your teachers to figure out how to provide these practicums, how else we can do it, what are the other ways. And you should know that telehealth is a really important way to learn to be a music therapist in these times. And so it will play a great larger role in the practicum experience. But we are really also waiting, and this is why I don't have exact information for you right now, but we are of course waiting for the province to decide about long-term care and hospice care and hospital access. And so once we know those things, our supervisors and those people that we trust and rely on to be in those population groups and in those venues, they will have a better sense of what their workload is and where they'll be working and what they themselves are allowed to do this fall. So August will be spent with our 2 music therapy experts and Eugene and myself working with the government to make sure that we understand the plans for long-term care, hospice, hospitals, vulnerable populations, so that we can be sure that we've assigned students to a practicum that fulfills your obligations and your hours. There are also many other ways, as you well know, to do practicum hours, and I can tell you already, much like I spoke about earlier, your faculty are already working on those other ways, and they, as the experts in the field, will be able to guide you through what those will look like, okay? So for now, at least rest easy that you will have a practicum placement. There will be practicum hours. We don't yet know how much or where because we have to wait on the Nova Scotia government for a number of answers to our questions. Hope that helps at least know that we are trying to take care of you and that we're working with all parties involved, CAMT, Nova Scotia Health, and your music therapy experts on campus. Collaborative pianist questions. I'm just checking my time. Collaborative pianist questions is really quite simple. Those of you that are required or have auditioned and are accepted to do recitals will be given a collaborative pianist time, as in a number of hours per week. So you may get a half an hour with that collaborative pianist, but it will most likely be virtual. It will most likely be recordings or live together this way. There will be very little on-campus in-person work with the collaborative pianist, but when and if that happens, there will be a significant number of guidelines that we have to follow to do that. So for example, the collaborative pianist work will be done on stage, behind a barrier, with the collaborative pianist wearing a mask and you, the performer, behind a barrier. So we are, and 15 feet. So we are trying to establish a new way of working, but if there is a need, and we will really rely on our collaborative pianist to let us know when that need occurs, that when that need is given to us in the office, we will schedule that stage time to make sure that you and your collaborative pianist are safe. But I can pretty much guarantee that for lots of you, there won't be an accompanist assigned to you for the fall the way that you normally assume there will be. So your applied faculty already know this. They're already well aware. They're already thinking of music and ways in which to teach and make your experience different than if there was an accompanist assigned to you. The second thing, of course, is that there is a great deal of accompaniment pre-recorded. So whether it's Mary who does some recordings for us, or whether the school purchases a number of excellent accompaniment CDs, CDs makes me sound old, sorry, did something digital for you, that then we can share, that particularly for young singers learning pieces, that relationship between accompaniment and song is so crucial, that there will be ways around it, but please understand it won't be exactly as we've had before. Our resources are limited, and also the number of hours face-to-face have to be limited. Hope that helps that question. There will not be juries for the fall. There never is a required jury for the fall. There's always an assessment tool with you and your professor, but a jury for the fall is never required anyway. The juries for the spring are the ones that are required. So your applied faculty know that there is no fall jury. There's nothing in December that will be a live stand up and play for your professors. They are already formulating other ways of assessment, and you will work with your professor to decide that and to make sure that your course outline adequately reflects what that decision is. I can tell you multiple applied faculty members have come up with some really interesting ways of having final projects for December that replace the jury. So I know that you'll find some really creative outlets there with your professor. Equipment, and this speaks directly to those of you that don't walk around with their instrument, okay? Whether it's voice or flute or clarinet. I'm really speaking to those students who require a piano and who require percussion instruments. If you're an instrument that I missed, please do let me know, and then if we can help you, we will. But that equipment will be bubbled, so to speak. So if you require that equipment and if you need that equipment as your instrument, we will bubble you. We will put you in a room and that will become your equipment to keep you safe. No one else's hands will touch that equipment, and there will be a schedule of cleaning that equipment safely, because as you can imagine, you can't just use Clorox on a piano. So we promise that those sorts of equipment needs, if you need a piano and you don't have one in your house, but you need to practice, we absolutely are aware of that, and we will help to work together to find you that adequate time to do so. The same with percussion. If there's other equipment that I'm missing, and there very well could be, there's other things you need to do your job, please don't hesitate to let your applied teacher know that when they contact you, okay? That's part of that communication. CMW I spoke about, which is that for all students this year, there are course substitutions, and you should already have made those choices. If you haven't, please do contact Barbara pretty quickly. First years, you had no choice. We told you which course you were taking, but upper year students, you absolutely had a choice of courses you could replace CMW with. And as you can imagine, the decision was a fairly easy one. CMW, by its very nature, doesn't align well with what COVID is, right? So we can't be collaborative, we can't be together in the way that CMW requires. So we've just decided to substitute that this year. From an advising perspective, you will absolutely still have a relationship with your advisors. It will be online like this. All of them will have your advising forms. You will have to make sure you have a screenshot of your transcript to send them, and advising can absolutely still be done through the office with Barb and I. There will be a point in August where Barb and I are back in the office, and there will be a list of protocols in order to come and meet with us. But my hope, as you all have experienced before, is that we will be able to do social distancing advising. It's just that much better for all of us to be able to be in the room together, to talk things out, to see the same things on the piece of paper. It, of course, will be social distanced, and it absolutely will be wearing masks, but there will be an opportunity for both Barb and I to return to the office in August. And so stay tuned for that announcement if you want to set up meetings. I'm sure they'll be coming. Tech list is simply just to let you know that your faculty is working to compile a list of things that we think you might want, okay? Things that we think might make your life easier to be a music student, not mandatory things, but things that we think would enhance your experience this year, especially if so much of it is online, particularly if so much of it doesn't require you buying a textbook. What else could you purchase that could be really beneficial? So watch for that list of supplies and ideas and ways of thinking about owning a piece of software or downloading an app or purchasing a microphone. Those sorts of things will be coming your way. We have a group of faculty, a little committee of faculty working on that for you. And finally, Sam's Buddies, I spoke about this before, but particularly in a year like this where we are not going to be together as often as we wish. We won't be able to see each other in the hall. We won't be able to smile or hug, and we certainly won't be at concert credit together. We really still want to make sure that we provide opportunities for connections. It's one of the things our school does really well, and one of the things I think we all find important about music making, which is the relationship building piece. And so I am going to ask Sams to work really hard to make sure everybody in the School of Music has a buddy, that everybody, maybe even more than one, that there's a way to connect with each other, to check in with each other, to ask the questions, and to just simply see how you're doing, because it will be an incredibly different year, and we want to make sure that we aren't forgetting anyone or leaving anyone behind because we haven't been able to check in the hallway as we normally do. Also, please know, and even though my email is swamped, I will eventually get back to you. I promise you that. It sometimes does take me longer than you'd wish if you texted me, but I am also a resource for you, that if there's a question that enrollment management can't answer, that Barb can't answer, please don't hesitate to reach out and copy me, and know that I will receive it and I will respond as soon as I can for you. We have all been working on your behalf all summer long, and I must say, we're all pretty excited about what we've come up with. But we also know that it's going to feel different, and it's going to feel in some ways not what you'd hoped. And I think it's safe to say we feel the same way. It's not exactly as we dreamed, but I also want to tell you we have dreamed some pretty cool things in its place. So I think that's the last of my slides, and I don't want to miss an opportunity to have some questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Christiane. I'm sure that answered a lot of incoming questions for current students as well as the new students coming in. We will start the Q&A session for all of you. If some of you are comfortable with turning on your mics, feel free to do so and ask your question verbally. If you would like to just type in your question, feel free to do so. And if the raise hand option is there, do that and I will answer in order as best to my ability. We do have a question though, Christiane. Will ensemble students be practicing individually, learning their parts and going one at a time to record the pieces through track building and layering? And then can you give any examples as to what the ensemble leaders have in mind.
No, you know what, to be really fair to you, Mitch, I would not be the expert in what the ensemble directors have in mind, but I can share with you that I think an element of what you're saying is true. I do think there's going to be some recording projects, some things that they're asking you to record and submit, but I wouldn't want to give a blanket statement about ensembles because of the 5 of them, every single one of them is doing something different, okay? Very different. And so if you know what ensemble you're part of, Mitch, don't hesitate to write the director or the conductor directly and ask your question. You know, you're interested in what's happening, and they are still fleshing out those ideas. They are still working really hard on your behalf to figure out what they're going to do. So A, I wouldn't want to give a blanket statement. I don't yet know that they have come to full decisions about what's happening. But B, all the ensemble directors are choosing to adapt this course in completely different ways. So I wouldn't want to make a statement that encompasses all of them.
Awesome, thank you. And then, how will ensemble auditions work for symphonic and wind?
Sure, I will assume the same answer to what I just said, and please forgive me for saying the same gosh darn thing, which is that A, I believe they're still working that out. B, I would assume it would be a recording, and C, you should absolutely reach directly out to your ensemble director to ask that question.
Perfect. I have another question here. The student says, I have a very big instrument, double bass. Is there a place I can bring it and leave it upon arrival? I don't think it will be able to fit in my residence room.
Yes, Iris, thank you. Welcome, first year Iris, thank you. Absolutely, there are spaces that are reserved for large instruments. We will assign you a practice space that is also a safe space to leave your instrument. So no fear on that one. When you do arrive, or when you know you're arriving, let us know, and we can have that space open and greet you when you arrive, so it does not have to go to your residence at all.
Lovely. I'm just going to wait to see if there's any more questions that pop up last minute.
I just want to say thank you, Sarah, and again for moderating and for keeping us all on track. I see all of your names there, folks. I miss you greatly. I'm looking at who's here, and I can't wait till we can see each other again. Thanks for joining today. This has been really great, and I hope it's been helpful.
Yeah, it's great. We just had a few more questions pop in actually as well.
Great.
If you have very specific instrument needs, would it be best to work with the applied professor, or should the students also set something up through some other?
Yeah, the SOM. Yeah, School of Music. Yeah, great question, Evan. A, absolutely start with your applied teacher. They already have good ideas. I can tell you there are already things they're thinking about. But if you need my help, all the applied teachers know that the next step is to bring that question back to my office and ask for my help. Absolutely.
Awesome. How will the bubbles be formed for practice rooms?
Yeah, definitely. We will be taking some of that information from your applied teachers, Emma. So the idea is they will reach out to you and see whether you have a practice space already exists, right? And if you do, then we don't need to put you in a bubble, right? So we need to sort of organize that information first, and then we will bubble students by schedule and by instrument type in as many places as we can. And it will be complicated, and it will take a little, maybe we'll get it wrong the first time and we'll have to readjust. But I think the first step is to gather the information and then look at who actually needs an assigned space.
The next question is if students will be able to work in the music building outside of regular school hours with the late night access.
Yeah, and I think the next question is very similar. So I think I'll just talk quickly about both of them. And I'll say at this moment, Barb and I are not allowed in the building, so I can guarantee you aren't. So if you're around Wolfville and you're looking for a place to practice, I sincerely apologize, but it can't be the buildings. Even when we're back in August and the 1st of September, there will be very limited access to those buildings until we figure out the schedule and the system. However, when we do, students will have swipe cards and access cards, and in some cases, keys to the practice rooms that they've been assigned. And so our hope is that the building would maintain open hours just as we have before, okay? So 8 to 4, and then the swipe card access from 4 until 11, which is normal practice for our buildings. That is our hope. I have no guarantee that that's what will happen because I am not in charge of making the government regulations about how long we're allowed in buildings or how much cleaning has to be done. But that is what we've submitted as a plan.
Awesome. If there are no more questions, I will give you some emails that you guys can reach out to if you do think of something later on today or throughout the weeks upcoming. Just to let you all know as well that a copy of this presentation will be posted to acadiau.ca within 48 hours. So if you need a reference, it'll be there. If you'd like to book a virtual coffee date, feel free to email acadiaforyou@acadiau.ca about any enrollment or admissions questions. And then for questions regarding music, feel free to reach out to Barbara Jordan at acadiau.ca or Christiane herself at acadiau.ca as well. I want to thank you for all coming and hopefully see you sometime soon in the near future.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you,
Bye.
Sarah.